Okay, now it's fine.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I would like to begin by having you join me as we stand for a moment of silence, and we'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have roll call next, please.
Brad Hint. Here. Tom Eggers.
Here.
Steve Hamill.
Here.
Chantel Ostra. Here. Jeff Wagner.
Here. All right, next item up is the approval of the agenda. We need a motion for that.
So move.
Support.
Comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Wagner.
Here.
Ostra.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Eggers. Hint.
Aye.
We now enter the public forum portion of our meeting. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council at this time? Yes. Is it relating to the library or? Go ahead. Just make your comments. We'll just take them now. Just step forward to the mic. And state your name too, please.
Annie McCabe. So I'm here to support library funding, mostly to express my concern about the way I think our library is headed. The lower funding that we've gotten in the last couple of years has, not only can the library offer fewer resources to the community, but we're losing experienced staff. We're unable to attract new staff. And I know you guys have a lot of things to balance. And I know I've talked to most of you about how Sheldon's library funding compares per capita to libraries across the state, and it's really bad. It's in the bottom 4%. And you have a lot of things to balance, and the risks are real. I just think it's important to remember that what makes a community strong isn't just no risk, it's also benefit, right? Like you want to be safe, but you also want the higher quality things in life, and that's what the library offers. Like we had a kid last summer, our family that came in regularly just to pick up the sibling, a mom and a son, and she never read to him. We talked to him, and eventually they signed up for the summer library program, and 7 weeks later she'd read him 100 books. Right? That he's now more ready for school. He's more ready to learn to read. He's more ready to sit through a lesson. She has more confidence in her parenting. There's a lot of small benefits like that. Kids who struggle in school for a lot of reasons, but especially socially, middle schoolers who are struggling, come to the library and find a different group of kids, find a place where they feel valued, where they feel part of the community. They're meeting homeschooled kids, kids from all the schools in Sheldon, building community and just helping these kids feel like they matter. And those benefits just keep accruing, right? A kid who feels valued when they're a preteen is less likely to become a kid that's making bad choices when they hit their teen years or older. We have elderly people who I'm pretty sure some days the only people they talk to are the library staff. People who don't see anyone all day, but when they don't come to the library, someone mentions later, hey, I didn't see you last week, where have you been? And loneliness is a real health issue and has real fiscal repercussions for communities. So small benefits like that aren't as easy to see as fixing a broken water main or putting out a fire, which are real emergencies, but they do add up to a stronger community. So I'd really like you to encourage you to stop by the library and see. We have all walks of life in the library. All parts of Sheldon are welcome there. Everyone can come without paying anything. It's one of the very few places that exists in our community other than the parks. So I'd encourage you to stop by and just see what a difference that the library makes in really small doses, but those, they add up and they build a better community.
Thank you.
Thanks, Annie.
Anyone else wish to address the council at this time? Have we had any written comments?
No, none.
Okay. All right, then let's move on to item 4. Just a brief review of the mayor and council goals, kind of set the tone for the rest of the meeting. Comments you want to make, Sam?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There was a lot to print here, so we didn't print it. It's not in your books for those of you who have the printed binders for the workshops, but if you click on the link, you'll see we have that information under comprehensive and strategic planning in the document section on the website. And just a few weeks ago, we reviewed the strategic plan, the 2015 comprehensive plan, and the city park master plan and SCDC's downtown review are also linked. So you could drill down to any of those if you'd like, or just wanted to make sure you had those for reference.
Any comments or questions from the council regarding that?
So is it our intent to reference these goals as we go through the budget process next couple of days? As line item by line item or what?
No, it was just so that you had them. And if somebody asked, how does this tie into our overall vision, chances are it's referenced in some way in that information.
Anyone else? If not, we'll move on then to item 5, city manager. The floor is yours, Sam.
Thank you, Mayor. So I attached a 2-page memo. It's fairly straightforward. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on it right now unless you have questions. And Larry Smith here. Okay. So I did invite Larry, so when we get to the insurance section later, we'll be talking about that. I did visit with him recently about trying to find a way to reduce some of our property casualty insurance costs. So we'll be drilling into that a little bit later this evening.
I have a question for you, Sam, in regards to this. How critical is it with what's going on or potentially will be going on in Des Moines in terms of cutbacks and phasing out of the backfill dollars and such? How critical is that?
So, well, it's a compound question, so I'll take it in pieces. So the backfill that was whittled away several years ago, and the sunset was put in for 2029. So it's possible that there could be legislation that makes it go away a few years early, but Angie and I have not counted on those funds in our revenues. So it's one of the reasons why our reserves looks a little bit better, because we haven't budgeted for those funds to be reseeded at all. We need those funds, but we've anticipated that they are going away, so we've been planning for that. So we've also experienced a levy consolidation. We've heard the comments earlier on the library. We certainly empathize with that. We did lose a couple of our levies, and those will be discussed more in the clerk's section. You know, every year for the last 10 years that I've been managing a city, there have been pieces of legislation that have been a problem for cities, but this is a situation where we have multiple bills that have passed one house or the other, or have been introduced by the executive branch, and they're a real concern. The 2% cap is already in state code for 2029, and that's one of the reasons why we've been working on trying to build up our reserves, preparing for that. But you know, we'll be spending down our reserves significantly coming into this budget, and there may need to be some tough decisions made. If you ask me to put together a planning of some of the steps that we could take if we needed to, depending on the outcome of the legislative session, that's something that I've already been thinking about and can work with you on. But yes, I think, you know what, we've had worse. You know, with our budgets 7 years ago were much more difficult than we have now. So I think there's still reason to be positive.
Okay, good. Any other questions for Sam from the council?
Sam, I don't 100% understand the 2%, but we've also seen our tax rate, our taxable property go up each year, pretty substantially, I think. So how does that affect the budget that we start with as far as income as we see property values go up?
Angie, that's something that probably is addressed in your memo, I would think, isn't it? With
Well, it just generates more property tax that we receive. When the valuations go up, more tax is generated.
So the 2% cap, is that a 2% cap on the tax property growth, or is it based upon the?
It depends on which version. There's 4 versions right now
Okay.
that they're looking at. 3 of them have a 2% cap, period. In other words, your property taxes will not go up more than 2%. Then there's another one that allows for growth. So if new construction comes up, it's not subject to that. So, but the other 3, or I don't remember if it's 2 or 3, are strictly 2%. We will not raise taxes more than 2%.
No matter
No
how much
matter
my
what
house goes up.
reevaluation
Okay.
does.
Okay.
And that's going to be exciting.
I just think it's good for everybody here to understand kind of what we're talking about as how those numbers are going to affect your potential asks. Okay. thank
Because,
you.
yeah, that's going to be really interesting. If one of those strictly 2% period goes through, so I would tell everyone that there may be a time when we come back and say, hey, you only get 2% more, if that. So hopefully those will get discussed and changed and whatever, but most of those folks are very firm on that. 2% seems to be very consistent. I don't know where they came up with that, but we'll see where that goes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Not, let's move on then to city clerk. Ange?
All right, as I've kind of stated, we won't be going line by line on the revenues or the expenditures. As far as the city office, we have in our budget to upgrade our computer hardware, possibly updating some video equipment in this room. We are going to use the equipment reserve fund that actually was money that was generated from dinner date rent in the basement many, many years ago to help out the general fund. Hotel motel tax, we did not change. We kept that split the same. If you remember, our local option sales tax statement says that we have to use 37.5% to go towards property tax relief. Our property tax insurance premium has exceeded the 37.5% of loss, so I am going to have to levy for just under $30,000. I'd like you to note, library does have a request from Lost. They don't get that. There would probably need to be some cuts. The levy at this time is set to be 15.32. Current levy is 15.28. That is a 4% increase for police, a 3% increase for full-time, part-time, emergency services, and seasonal. And The emergency services debt levy final payment is actually in this current fiscal year. So as you will see on the loss sheet, we have proposed doing federal corporate purpose bond for emergency service requests and the final payment on the fire tanker. As far as different insurances, and Larry will probably hit on some of this too, the health insurance last year was only a 3.4% increase, which we budgeted 10%. So this year, I have budgeted 10% based on the current premium that we are paying. Our work comp is outstanding. We received a decrease of 33% on our premium there because we are doing so well with all of our employees and our volunteers. Our property and casualty insurance last year increased 9.5%. And so we planned a 10% increase on that. That's about all I've got. Any questions for me?
Can we bring Larry up to talk about insurance?
Larry, since we're on the topic, would you be willing to address the insurance at this time?
Larry from Perspective Insurance, thank you. Appreciate being here. So a couple things Angie just kind of discussed a little bit were the property casualty, which is kind of the big one of the three. I'm getting indication from ICAP is that rates have stabled. Insurance market has we'll say, somewhat recovered. It looks to be that the rates will be pretty flat with the exception of inflation. So on the property side, depending on the inflation of buildings and things like that, 3 to 5% is what we're projecting. Overall, that'll be pretty flat. Our work comp, thanks to Todd, Sam, everyone that works the city, our claims have been phenomenal and stayed down. And I don't foresee anything major change there. I think we'll continue to see the positive rates that we have. As far as health insurance, I looked back at the last 15 renewals I had over the last month and a half, and they were 10 of the 12 were at 10%. A couple of them were in the 11.5 to 12%. I think that we're going to continue to see that this year, 10%. Now, like you said, last year we were at 3.5, and I've always said in health insurance it's a roller coaster. You get a year where it's a very low percentage, and the next year it's a swing up. And nice to see a little more stable rate across the board on that, but it seems to be up and down on that. What I'm seeing in health insurance this year is right at 10%. So
when do you know what that figure's going to be? When do you know when that figure's going to be?
So that is a July 1 renewal. And it's usually about between 60 and 90 days out, usually in that 75, 2.5 month area before we get that number.
The reason I ask is we budgeted $10,000 for a 3.5% increase last year.
10%.
10%.
10%.
Increase
For
on the
a
current
3.5%
premium.
increase. So
Yes, last year, or in the current year,
we
yes.
over budgeted.
Yes.
For what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So we must have been talking 10% the same time last year. So
I can't remember.
So I
right
guess
off
what
the
I'm
top.
saying is
Do I hope it's 3%? I do. From, like I said, the last 15 I looked at, I don't have any in that range.
Larry, what's the claim history look like for our health insurance? Have you pulled any of those numbers?
I don't have those with me.
Okay.
That doesn't affect the group, okay? Because of the Affordable Health Care Act, the rates are based on everyone in the state of Iowa are spread out, okay? So rates are based off of age. Everyone's accepted, obviously.
Are we getting to the point that we should get off of age-based and go to just
because of the Affordable Health Care Act, that's the only option going forward. We could go to, I shouldn't say, there's carriers out there that will say, okay, here's your rate, okay? We'll give it to you on age-based, or we'll give it to you on single-family rates, but the bottom number's the same. They just take those and figure that out. So the Affordable Health Care Act has mandated the way that's rated. That help?
And who's our carrier?
Walmart Blue Cross Blue Shield. Any other questions?
If I might?
Yep.
So back to ICAP, our property casualty. So when we were visiting earlier, it was last week, one of the examples that you mentioned is that there's buildings out there that the city has that we could sit down and decide if we lost that building, you know, do we need to have replacement costs or on all of our buildings? So
Right,
that's
I think,
something that
you and I need to sit down,
Mhm.
Todd, and look at certain properties, certain pieces of equipment, determine if that's a piece of property we want to insure, or we want to reduce coverage on that. Of course, we have deductible options coming, things to see what we can do to cut some of those costs going forward. Working on those options.
thank you.
And probably to know, we did drastically, I didn't want to say drastically, but we did increase the dram shop significantly.
We did.
Yeah.
And that's something we can look at and talk about. Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Tom, is your mic on?
I don't think it's working. Either way,
No.
testing.
So. All right, while they fiddle with that, let's move on then to item 7, the recap and potential action. Sam?
Yeah, we put recaps in several places in the budget workshop, so you know you can always defer to the next recap. But if you have an item that you're thinking about, or if you'd like more information, you could just say I'd like this added to the next recap, and then I can do some research prior to tomorrow. Or if you have motions on the items above, you can do that. You're not required to, and you could wait till the next recap. So it's set up so that there's multiple landing spots for you to have discussions.
So when you talk about potential action, is the looking at buildings that you were just discussing with Larry, is that an action item you would like to add in somehow? Or
That's really not ripe for action.
Okay.
That really comes more closer to
it's more action
renewal.
we're taking
right. If you have
what's happened,
right, if you have questions or directions of us, this is the time to have.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments related to that?
I think my mic's working now, right?
Yes, sir?
I jiggled it the other direction you did, so don't worry about it.
I guess I'm of a mind that we continue on and approve this all at the end, unless you want to approve them section by section. If someone is inclined to do that, you can certainly speak up to that. But I'd rather just move on and then just approve them as a whole. If that's all right with you?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'm not following you. I'm sorry. I was fixing my
Well,
mic.
but the recap and potential action, one of the things that Sam mentioned we could do is approve what's been presented thus far. I would just as soon move on and just do it all in one motion at the end.
If I might.
Yeah.
What we'd really design this is that if, for example, on insurance, if one of the council members said, well, we'd like to explore switching to Geico or something like that, and then that would be the time to have that discussion. But as far as making, if you'd like clarification on an additional item, or if you have direction on one of the items that we talked about, but I don't know that it would all be approved subject to hearing in April anyway. So
Okay.
really, you could make amendments on the fly if you wanted to, is what this was designed to be, the
Okay.
recap section.
So, all right, let's move on then to department presentations. First up, ambulance. Hello, Kristen. And Jared.
My favorite part, the mic. All right, so I'm Kristen Hahn. I'm the director of the Sheldon Ambulance, and I have with me Jared, the assistant director. So just kind of going over in Kristen fashion, as I usually do, during our budget recap, I kind of give you a quick synopsis of our year end. So last year, SCAT ended with 24 members on our roster, and we ended with 818 calls that we responded to throughout 2025. With that, I did include in your guys' paperwork the city or the SCAT recap that you guys can review. If you have questions with, we can ask at the end. But going over my budget, so my SCAT operations, well, let's start at a different side of it. SCAT is a unique emergency service, as we kind of fund ourselves with revenue from our 911 calls and our transfer calls. So we're unique in that way. We don't rely on, quote, your city funds. We rely on the money that we get in from our 911s and our transfers. So our operations, I've asked that our operations stay mainly the same. There's not many big changes. The only change that I've asked for is an increase in our leadership pay. And that is an ask because, like I said, we respond to 818 calls. We oversee 24 members in our on our team. We have leadership responsibilities that we have to take care of. So it's just an incentive to keep our leadership strong. In the budget aspect of things, this is an increased ask of $2,000 on our budget line item. The second ask that I've asked is that our members that take backup get our backup on-call pay, which right now what we currently do is if SCAT members are on call, they're getting their $1 an hour incentive. And when they go out to a call, we take that away from their pay. What I'm asking that does is go to the backup crew. This has been in our budgeted line item since we started our hourly on-call pay. It's always budgeted to have someone on call, 3 people on call, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So that's not an increase that you would see. The money that we budget for stays in a pool and we use it, and it's usually, it stays there and it goes over. My CIP, there's really no changes from when I was here a couple weeks ago for our CIP ask. So I will leave it up and open for questions if you have questions.
Anyone have questions for Kristen?
So how do you feel about the makeup of your team as far as the number of EMTs and all
Um,
those different skill sets?
we have a great team. So we do have our structure right now. We have 2 potential hired full-time people and 1 part-time. Unfortunately, right now we have 1 open position for full-time, 1 open position for part-time that we are struggling to fill. So what you do see is the volunteers helping pick up the slack of taking those calls and being on call as we try to lessen the burden that way. We do have a very unique team where we're able to provide ALS services, advanced life support, for our community and potential surrounding communities from services that are coming to our hospital here in town, and mutual aid. For not very many services in rural Iowa have advanced life support skills. So we're a unique team. We're a great team. We keep striving and growing and keeping it strong for our community in response to our community.
Would I be correct in saying that anyone that wants to do a ride-along as far as council members to get a better feel is welcome to do so?
Absolutely, and I brought an application if anyone wanted.
I did it.
I was proactive.
I would recommend it. I did it, and it was an eye-opening experience. It was exciting to watch them in action, and it does give you a little better
idea of what a call involves, what the team does, how they work together. Very impressed with the work they do. So I would highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kristen? Any comments from you, Jared?
Oh, yeah, we can let him talk for a minute.
Okay, all right.
So it was a $2,000 increase for officers, and then what was the increase you budgeted for standby?
There's no increase on the budget because it's already been budgeted. It's always budgeted.
Expenditure?
So that amount, like I said, if I'm on call 12 hours a day and I get paged out for 2 hours, those $2 go back into the bank. Now what I'm asking is that goes to the people that are on backup. If we take a transfer or if we have, whatever it may be that they're on backup for. If we have to take a long flight out to the airport, whatever, that money gets off of their paycheck into the backup person. Incentivizing backup to cover our second and our third ambulance.
But there's still additional costs in that because it went back into the bank and now you're going to write it back out to the backup, aren't you?
No, it's always budgeted. It's budgeted to have 3 people on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So it's already in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ann.
You're correct, yes.
So that's not an increase. That's just me saying I would like to take that money and give it to our backup people.
I don't follow that, but that's okay. I'll ponder it.
Let me know if you have any questions.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
I have one question,
thank you.
Kristen, please. When we go out of town on a call, do we have arrangements with communities as to what they reimburse or?
So we, for say Sanborn, yes, we do. If we go to Sanborn, we charge them a fee. If we go to Archer, yes, we charge them a fee. If it's a mutual aid, we do not. If we're going to, Hoppers, for paramedic assist, there's a fee. So there are fees unless it's a mutual aid.
Like a car accident?
Like a
with
car accident.
multiple victims?
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Were you part of that with Hartley when a month ago or so when they had that snowstorm and there was numerous wrecks in and around Hartley?
Yeah, they.
Would that be a mutual aid situation?
That would be a mutual aid situation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Or a car accident between here and Boyd and needing multiple ambulances, that's mutual aid. Yep.
So I get often asked by the public, so if we go to Sanborn, we charge Sanborn $350 to go there?
Yep.
And then they charge the patient then?
Negative. We charge the patient for our services and we charge Sanborn for our services.
Okay. And does Sanborn guarantee the payment by the patient? As if they had done it, they'd have to eat it if it was washed?
So we charge, so our billing company, I submit it to our billing company pays, or goes for the patient, charges the patient, what we charge.
Right. But if we don't get paid by the patient, or if there's a write down, then we eat that. Is that correct?
Essentially, if there was that situation, yes, but yes. We charge
Thank you.
$350 from Sanborn.
I can answer that question, then. Thank you.
All right. I
Third
think
time's
you
a
can
charm.
sit. I think you can sit or leave, as the case may be. Thank you. Crossroads Pavilion. I'm assuming, Tricia, you're here for that.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Pleasure to be in your presence again. Our budget memo that is before you, I'll just touch on a couple of those things and you can ask questions. So the 26-27 budget is very similar to the previous year as far as revenue and expenses. The only difference that we have added in for this year would be our storage. We still do not have a storage structure at the Crossroads Pavilion. We pulled back the reins on some of the work that had been done and quotes that were received from some local contractors. We pulled back those reins to pursue the possibilities of a different location, adding on, adding to, etc. We're in the process right now working with Beck. They just came in this last week it was and went over some ideas with us. So we're asking that the money that we had for this year was 150 total, continue into the next fiscal year budget, and then we have no clue what that's going to be. I jokingly said 9 million, but I just penciled in 300,000. I have no clue what it's going to take for an additional parking lot and what the storage would look like if it's added to standalone with a connected enclosure. We're in the works for that. So this number is a total shot in the dark. Otherwise, we are not the same plateau as last year. We hope to grow. We usually see that in our rent and in our bar revenue. We could probably budget more in the bar revenue, but I'd rather undershoot that and not hope that people drink as much. So, any questions?
I have a question
Mhm.
on the engineering.
Yep.
I mean, that building's probably 6, 8 years old. And the
17 we opened.
Okay.
Mhm.
Why didn't we use the old architect that would design the building, that would have had all the prints already, had all that front end work done?
Sure. So we had Mike Bell with RDG give us an estimate, and when Beck Engineering came in, and our board decided to go with Beck Engineering.
Okay.
What the difference was in price wasn't, I can't not tell you exactly what
Okay.
that was.
I was just curious
Yes.
why
Thank you for asking.
we didn't use the
Original.
original contract,
Agreed.
architect,
Mhm.
engineer.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's 150,000 this year for a building that we didn't use. And you got 300,000 in the budget for next year, potentially for expansion.
Correct.
Does that become 450,000 with the 150 from this year that wasn't used? Or is that 150 plus the 150 we didn't use this year?
I would say it's an additional 300,000 because we're looking at including a west parking lot addition.
Okay.
And I have no clue what that would cost either. So the 150, so the quote that we were going to go with last year was around 151,000. So now using going this different route, I'm not sure what those prices were coming in at. So we padded that a little bit, but also with the parking lot, I have no clue. I guess it will be all dependent on how many spaces and exactly where it falls into place.
And from what I've heard, you added a third staff person,
Yes,
and the
July 1st.
expectations were to grow revenue based upon adding the third staff
Correct.
person. How's that turned out for you?
So when I was here last council meeting, I think one scenario example that I gave you was we had a busy week the first week of December, and we had calls come in for more events to be booked that week, and we were able to take them. We are booking Mondays more, and once the word gets out with a lot of our corporate businesses, I foresee more Mondays being picked up. We are able to take more during the week without having to step back and really think through the process of the 2 full-time, the part-time, the cleaning in between. We're having that additional person has helped us navigate through morning shifts, night shifts in between.
So of the 50,000, what do you think you've recouped so far in additional revenues?
I don't know. I think
Just a gut feeling, I was
nope.
curious.
I figured around 9 months, I'll have a better idea.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Tricia. EMA, who do we have here today? Anybody? Okay, then we'll move on to fire.
I'll excuse myself as a council member. Brad Hint is the fire chief. Our memo is in the budget, a slight increase of 0.69%. That's been consistent the last couple of years. You have the capital improvement plan that's listed, those items. We did take out of the CIP this year, 90,000 for an air compressor. We pushed that back to 2028-29 budget to better match up with the replacement of our SCBA's. As far as calls and meetings, we put in our budget, increase firefighters, non-certified firefighters $1. Firefighter 1 would also get a $1 increase, and then anybody that's got a firefighter 2 would get a $2 increase. And the officers came up with that because these firefighters are putting in over 200 hours of training, going to class, not getting reimbursed for it. It's training outside of our regular meetings. And again, our calls and meeting pay is not an hourly basis. That's a flat rate. If we're there 5 minutes or 5 hours, we get paid the same. Some of our revenue, we've been negotiating with the townships. And for 26, we'll be bringing in from the townships a little over 68,000. In 27, that's projected to go to 47,000. Of that, 25% goes to operations, 75% goes to the fire reserve. That's where we came up with, I believe, the $110,000 down payment on our tanker. We also put in the fees that we charge, whether it's a vehicle fire or car accident or structure fire. Those revenues also go into that reserve account that helps build the revenue. The other, I probably should have mentioned this before I started, but last year we had 113 calls. We're right around 31 members. Our biggest need is space. And then the other thing I want to touch a little bit on is the state's coming up with this length of service program to where they'll benefit. They'll put $500 into a retirement fund for the firefighters, and the city matches that. I think that would be a great recruitment tool for all emergency services. It's going to cost the city, if they did everybody, $32,000 a year. But I think it's a great recruitment tool. It's not going to benefit me, our guys that have 20, 25 plus years, but it's going to benefit the new guys coming on, new gals. I think we can retain their, keep them around. I think this is just going to be a win. So, any questions?
You said you have 31 firefighters at this time. Is that, what would you consider fully staffed?
I would say that's close. I think right now we could be selective on our new members. Have a little bit more selection.
Okay.
So Brad, with that, what's changed? Because I know a couple of years ago, all of our emergency services were worried about volunteers and employees. It seems like that concern is diminished.
Yeah, I think you're getting a younger group of people again. You get some younger people. They got younger friends that are willing to volunteer. I don't have the numbers before me, but I think I did the last 15 years average membership, and I think it was right around the 26 number mark of volunteers we've had over, I think it was 15 years. I went back and looked at the beginning of the year and counted how many we had and took an average.
So nothing in particular related to things that the department has changed since then or added or?
I don't know. We just have some newer faces, some people that moved in from town that are not originally from here.
Right.
A lot of membership goes on, friends, my friends doing it, and you get them interested in it, and it's kind of one of the things we think things happen.
So the purpose of my question is relating to the budget. One of the things that we discussed quite a bit a couple of years ago was what did we need to do? Everyone was talking about wages, everyone was talking about benefits. Are we okay where we're at now?
For membership?
I mean, in regards to the success we're having in attracting and retaining volunteer force, are we okay with wages and benefits for the most part?
I think we are, but I think we need something to entertain them, to keep them around, would help. I think the retirement thing would be a great deal. I know the state of Minnesota has one. I don't think it's going to ever be as good as this, but I had a hardware friend, Fairmont, Minnesota, 25 years on. He got a check for $95,000 from the state of Minnesota. He said he maxed it out, whatever he could put in the most, and that was his retirement after 25 plus years.
Okay.
And I know we'll never get to that, but
Right.
something's better. And, you know, if we get to that point of a retirement thing, I think the fire department, talked to a few guys, I think we do a pay freeze, you know, for a year or two to get that. So, and I think probably the other services might, but I just think it'd be a good thing to do.
Okay.
So does the state of Minnesota fund that,
We
or,
did in Minnesota, yes, we
Yeah.
have a very active one.
but here it would be the city?
It'd be the city and state.
Okay.
I think you have that information in your packet from the other night.
So can the firemen add to that, or is it just?
Yes, I
that-
believe they can.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Anything else for Brad? What's that?
any other questions?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Brad.
Return back to my council meeting.
All right. The library. Hi there.
Hi, I'm Melissa Keno, the new library director at Sheldon Public Library. The mission of Sheldon Public Library is to enrich its community by providing information, serving as a gathering place, fostering research, and stimulating creativity. The biggest thing we're asking in our budget for fiscal year 26-27 is from the lost $75,000. Without the lost revenue, our library budget will be $156,265. This won't even cover our wages expenses, which is $172,545. Lost will help the library accomplish one of our biggest goals in our strategic plan for 2026 through 2029, afford a full-time children's librarian. We need a full-time children's librarian to host more events and increase our outreach. One of our goals is for the children's librarian to participate with the school to attend the annual open house in the fall of 27. This will enable the children's librarian to meet with children and teachers and promote the library and its program. Another goal for fall of 2028 is for the children's librarian to partner with area daycares and offer monthly story times for daycares. These goals cannot be achieved in a part-time position. Afford new 24-inch monitors for the front desk, which would be around $80 to $100 each. We need 2 wider monitors at the front desk to accommodate the data for the library residents and our employees. Our current monitors are too small for the staff to read and gather data. We need to purchase bigger monitors to make it easier for staff to gather data. Afford more books. Our primary vendor, Baker & Taylor, shut down, so we have had to find new vendors to purchase books, and the new vendor prices are higher than Baker's and Taylor's. Afford Beanstack, which is $843.41. Beanstack is an app that allows library patrons to earn badges for the minutes and number of books they read. It helps the library gather stats on how many minutes Sheldon residents spend reading books throughout the year. It allows the library to create challenges to encourage patrons to read and increase their literacy skills. Receive more supplies to host library programs. Some of our goals include, starting in spring 27, the library will host a quarterly coffee and tea social event for adults. Patrons mentioned the desire for more social events. This would be a great opportunity for patrons to meet new people. To host a coffee and tea social, the library will have to buy different flavors of coffee and tea pods for K-Cups. K-Cups are around $40 to $50 depending on the count and brand. The children's librarian will start a filmmaking and social media club for teens to create fun short video clips to post on the library social media pages. You'll need to purchase at least 3 iPads and iPad cases for teens to use to create fun video clips that promote the library. The oldest versions of iPads would cost approximately $130 to $200 each. The newest iPads would cost approximately $350 to $400 each. and the iPad cases would cost approximately $30 to $70 each. From this program, teens will gain education about filmmaking, marketing, and storytelling. This will help students gain confidence in public speaking. According to the National Literacy Institute, in 24-25, literacy statistics show Americans' reading levels continue to decline, with 54% of adults below a sixth grade reading level. The public library is an institution that provides education for its citizens. Investing in a public library benefits all departments of the city of Sheldon. Does anyone have any questions?
So how much are you asking for an increase in funding over what you received last year?
We're asking this year, the current budget for this year was $188,825. For 26-27, we're asking for $231,265.
It's about $55,000 increase?
Yeah, I'd say about that.
Any other questions for Melissa? Melissa, sorry.
I probably have a question, but it might come when we go talk about Lost. The 75,000 from Lost, will that be a one-time deal, or is that going to be a reoccurring, now that we put it in Lost, will that generate a reoccurring every year?
Not, yeah, like don't plan ask for $75,000 from loss every year, no.
Okay, I was just curious, staff, is it just a one-time deal? Or is it going to be an ongoing?
If I might.
Yes.
So, it's a great question, Brad. If you go to the, there's a, right underneath the library memo, there's another one, another link, additional info. And we put this together and reviewed it with Alyssa, but if you look at FY25, there the 10,000 for books and the 20,000 for windows. That was 30,000 from local option sales tax, and then there was 75,000 in the current year. So yes, the precedent has been set, but it was started when the levies consolidated, and we were trying to make up for the lost funding from property tax. So I would anticipate, I don't want to contradict you in front of everybody here, but I would anticipate that with this year, last year, and this coming year, local option sales tax, the precedent has been set to ask for local option sales tax in the future.
It is, it's the same request as last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Police, you're up next.
If I might, while Eric is coming up. I just want to point out that there was a request made by council for some reports going back, and we have linked that to item 20 under additional information. There's 10 years worth of reports linked.
Okay, I'm Eric Meineke, the Sheldon Police Chief. Thank you guys for having me today. I was going to give you a quick update on the last year, and then I'll explain the budget proposed. In 2025, the police department had 2,992 calls for service. All of the call numbers are somewhat approximate. There's different ways to search through calls for service with the system that we use. So I find this to be about the most accurate way without having to go manually to see which calls every officer went on and count them all manually. So it is an approximate number, but it is based on the calls that we were dispatched to. Those calls vary, we had 143 dog calls, 114 car accidents, We also assist the ambulance team and the fire department with their calls whenever we are available. We have a good relationship as far as helping each other out with stuff like that. The police department arrested 339 people in 2025. 262 of those where the department initiated criminal charges on the person, and then 77 of those arrests come from things like arrest warrants or mitimuses where someone's required to serve time and doesn't show up, so then we have to arrest that person and take them. We also applied for and served 19 search warrants. Outside of law enforcement, that probably doesn't mean a whole lot, but that's an impressive number, and that's really helped attribute to the reputation of the Sheldon Police Department improving as much as it has. The police department's undergone a significant amount of change in the past few years, and we're continuing to improve to provide the best services that we can. As far as my budget proposal, the 2026-2027 fiscal year, I've proposed mostly modest increases to match inflation where we need it in our budget, and anything that I could keep the same, I have kept the same. The main thing I would like to ask you about is we have last year I was authorized to make an overhire for a 9th officer. If you recall, that was when we had an officer that was getting deployed for the National Guard, and that officer is also not certified yet, so once he does return, we still won't have him available to us. Unfortunately, as times continue to change, we have multiple members of our department that are in the National Guard, and we have other pending deployments or deployment possibilities on the horizon. And I'm concerned that we're going to find ourselves in a fairly hard place if we don't maintain that temporary authorization for that position. I know we have it in the budget for this year for that 9th position, and I would like to maintain the temporary position for this year, and I would like to have a discussion, over the next year about the possibility of moving that into a full 9th position. Do you have any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, you said the officer is currently deployed, and when he comes back, he'll have to certify and won't be available. What do you mean by that?
He was deployed before he was able to go to the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy.
Okay,
So even when he does return,
so
he still will be in
Academy
Des
work to
Moines
do.
for approximately 4 months, or
and that's a 6-month process?
16 weeks.
What, 16 weeks?
16 weeks.
Okay.
So we have 8 officers. We budgeted for 9. We budgeted for 9 because we think 1 or more will be deployed or unavailable. So then we'd have 8. So why do we budget for 9 if we don't think we're going to have 9 available based upon what we see coming?
We have 9 right now. We made an overhire
Right.
to help cover while we were going through all of this. And the plan when the council approved that was that we could deal with the 9th officer position either through attrition or at a later date deciding what to do with retaining a 9th officer or moving back to 8.
But we really don't have 9 because we're not paying for 9 because 1's off to the military at this point, correct or not?
Correct. So for this year, we've been budgeting for 9, but we're only paying 8 because 1's being paid by the state.
And you want a 9th one because you think that you'll probably have 1 gone during the next calendar year also, which will put you to 8. Is that what you're kind of saying?
I would like to say that is one of my concerns. However, that's why we need to budget for 9, because if the one returns and then the other one ends up not getting deployed, then we have 9 officers.
So adding the extra officers, would your department handle the code enforcement?
We currently assist with code enforcement, and I'm happy to assist with it. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable having the department completely take over code enforcement. We currently assist with things like vehicles in the right-of-way and things along those lines. I personally feel that it's inappropriate for the police department to deal with issues like tall grass and stuff. And I think that is better dealt with in a more personal way than sending a person with a gun and a badge to tell someone to mow their yard.
But you also enforce the other codes of the city, parking, dog, all those. So I also see you could enforce the code violations of that also.
It is possible.
I mean, that could justify the ninth officer duties.
The primary reason I'm asking for a ninth officer is I am stressed about the amount of time that we have guys working alone.
Sure.
In the past 12 months, we've had it 3 different times where the officers are unavailable, whether they're at another emergency call or headed to the jail or whatever. And typically in that situation, if the sheriff's office is available, they will assist us and they'll come help cover calls while our guys are busy. But the 3 times that I am speaking about, the sheriff's office was already on an emergency call and our guys were already tied up at the jail with their previous emergency call. And I had three different times that I got called in to respond to a domestic from home. So in those situations, you're alone going to a call that we're trained not to go to alone, and yet you're going alone. And you know that your closest backup is trying to book someone into the jail and then still has to drive 20 minutes back to Sheldon. So if we have 9 officers, that would enable us to change, I figured out, I did the math for this, our scheduling to allow, we currently do, where did that- oh, here it is. Okay, we currently have, on weekdays, 6 hours a day that there's only 1 officer working, and on weekends, 12 hours a day that there's 1 officer working. With 9 officers, the schedule would allow for weekdays to have 3 hours of 1 officer coverage and 5 hours of 1 officer coverage. So that would reduce it by 54% the amount of time that we're working alone.
The 5 would be the weekends where you're normally having 12 hours, only with only 1, you said?
With 8 officers on the weekends, there's 12 hours
Where they're working alone.
where you're working alone.
And with a 9th, that would be reduced
to 5 hours.
Okay.
I have a question. Are any of the county deputies ever scheduled to be in town to help or not? It's just on an as-needed basis.
No, the county, we have a good relationship with the county,
Oh, yeah.
and there isn't a week that they're not assisting us on calls in Sheldon. However, they have no legal responsibility to respond in Sheldon. So they will respond and assist us whenever they can, and they even cover calls for us when they can. However, we don't have, there's not a deputy scheduled to work in Sheldon.
Okay.
So Eric, I was told, I thought, that there's times in O'Brien County where there's no county sheriff and a deputy in the county because he's been called for a transport out of county or things like that. So, and you've got 1 guy on duty, which means there's 1 officer in the county at that given time. Is that correct? So how many times do you find yourself having to respond to something because there isn't a O'Brien County sheriff available in the county to respond to an event?
I hate to go on record to publicly state this. However, it's a very much one-sided relationship. I have never gone to an O'Brien County call that there was not a deputy at, or at least responding to, and they come to Sheldon every week to help cover our calls.
But they're possibly calling somebody out of bed or something like that to respond to events?
That's what would happen. I can't recall a time that it has happened. The amount of time that they have 1 deputy on duty that they send them out of town is basically reserved to emergencies that the hospital can't control the person, so they want to get them out of there before. But then in those situations, the sheriff's office does put someone on call.
Because right now, if we have what, 168 hours in a week. And if you have 8 officers, that's 360 hours. So basically, if there wasn't an offer, except for vacations and things like that, we have enough hours to spread across 2. My concern is that we're going into a budget session that we're very concerned about spending. And to add an officer is about, what, $100,000? And then we add a patrol car, which is another $100,000. And then we've got 9 officers. And then next year we add another patrol car, which is another $100,000. I'm just trying to wrap my arms around the dollars and what we're, I wouldn't want to do you do a great job. I appreciate everything you do. So this is not anything against the police office at all. It's just that we hear about budget concerns all the time. And this is a big number. When our capital is emergencies is $600,000 and $100,000 for police car, and then talk of maybe adding to some storage and things like that. I just don't know where we so I'm trying to get your feeling for how you would spend the money if you were sitting in my seat.
Thank you. This is why I'm very excited that we are able to have these conversations. Normally I exist in my own world down there, so this has been eye-opening and a good experience to learn how the whole city's budget works. When it comes to priorities, I'm in an awkward spot listening to these conversations because I care. My job is to make sure that the police officers are safe and that they can succeed, but I also don't want the taxes to go up myself because I live here too. That being said, my priorities, the police department is open to work with the city's budget, of course. The vehicle storage, I've already taken off of our plate, essentially, at least for the time being. I'd like to I know that the SCAT and fire have needs for expansion and stuff like that, so I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with them, if there's going to be any storage area that opens up here or whatever we need to do. For additional vehicles, if it comes down to we need to make a cut in our budget, I would prefer to have 9 officers and share cars as opposed to have a vehicle for every officer. We can make things work. To say that we can't purchase a vehicle is slightly different. We can work with whatever vehicles we have. However, I particularly like the 2022 or 3, I don't remember which year the older Durango is, but that one is starting to get up in miles, and then obviously it has more repair and maintenance costs that are happening to it, and that involves more downtime that we can't use the vehicle. Excuse me. So I would prefer to, at a minimum, trade that vehicle in and replace our, did you look what year it was?
Yeah,
Whatever the older Durango
it's
is.
linked to item 20. It's a 2022 Durango.
Yep.
And
That
then
vehicle we have had more problems with as it's aged on, and that one's been shared between the most people. So I would like to, at a minimum, try to trade that vehicle in, which does reduce costs significantly because we would replace it with a Durango, so the equipment from that vehicle can be transferred to a new one.
Thank you.
That might have been a drawn-out answer that hopefully answered your question.
No, thank you very much. And the reason I asked some of those questions is they're being asked of me. And so I just would like the public to be able to hear firsthand out of your mouth what the answers are to those instead of me repeating them. So that's why we're asking some of these questions.
So Eric, just so I'm clear, Jeff made reference to the assumption that a 9th person brings along another vehicle. Is that assumption matching what you're going to request for a budget? Is a 9th person and a vehicle?
No. Well,
Okay.
we already have the 9th employee currently. However, he's deployed overseas, but
You just want to extend that to a
but
full-time position?
I would like to, when I was talking with Sam and Ange about the budget, they said they have it as a placeholder in the budget for right now.
Right.
And I'm fine with maintaining that, and we can continue to have these discussions. But I would like that to be on your radar, that for essentially officer safety reasons.
But it's not for a vehicle?
It is not for a vehicle, no.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're clear about that.
We have 7 vehicles now, and he's asking for an 8th vehicle. Then we added a 9th vehicle, 9th officer. Most likely, we would come back and ask for a 9th vehicle.
Well,
I mean, based on the trend we've set thus
I'm
far.
just trying to understand from him exactly what he's wanting. So,
Right. And that's fair. That's not what I'm asking for. And that's where I'm saying my priorities lie with a 9th officer. So if it can help save money, we can trade in a vehicle and just keep 7. But I would ask that we would like to replace that Durango this year. if we could.
How do you feel about budgeting for more overtime instead of another officer?
That's difficult. We have, with the guys working 12-hour shifts and then having families outside of that, it's hard to find guys to fill in specific areas. That's what we do now when people, like if people call in sick and stuff like that, we cover that, but we're essentially operating at a minimum level right now where either I fill the shift or we have to pay someone overtime to fill the shift. One thing I don't know if I mentioned is we currently budget for a part-time position, and we've not had much success with how we can utilize part-time officers. A part-time officer is not certified as a Iowa peace officer, they're certified as a reserve. With the problem that makes is they can't work independently, so it really doesn't help us as much as we'd hoped it would. So I'm proposing that we use the money for the part-time wages also to help cover the full-time position.
Thank you. Very insightful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
So the part-time position is currently budgeted? Is that
Correct.
Okay.
I believe to the tune of 22,000.
I have it somewhere in my disaster.
Yes, 22,000.
22,000.
And what you're saying is then eliminate that position?
Correct.
Okay.
Which we've not had. Is that correct?
We do have one part-time officer that works for a different city, and he's been helpful for events like we've had him come assist at Rise Fest and during celebration days. But I lost the page now, but it's been to the tune of less than $1,000.
So he's on like an on-call basis then?
Essentially, I text him and see if he can work that day, and then he says yes or no.
We've spent $412 on a part-time position
Sure.
through today.
And that's the problem is, even then when he does come, he was particularly of interest to us because he's a certified officer. His full-time job is for a conservation department. And then he also works part-time at a different police department, which there's the problem is he has a full-time job and a part-time job outside of us.
What was that number, Ange?
$412.
Thanks.
So what is considered full-time? You say you got 12-hour shifts. Is that 36 hours considered full-time then, or are they putting up a 4 hour somewhere else?
Can you
In
answer
a
that
year,
question?
they're a 2,184 hour schedule. Some salary sheets are 96 hours, some are less, some are more. It really just depends on their schedule.
The schedule and how the schedule lands in the pay period.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lyle, airport's up next.
Well, with the airport, and I have pants.
Yes, I was going to say, it must be improving. You got pants.
My back is slowly getting better, so. So, yeah, that's right. So, I'm a little tired. I've been up all night. I had a medevac flight, so I got home at at noon this afternoon. So I'll try to keep my head straight here. So basically, our budget at the airport doesn't change a whole lot from year to year. The general budget as far as utilities, operating expenses, things like that. One thing we've done this year, and we have changed in the hangar leases, so we've increased revenue by requesting more money from our hangar renters. We cleared out some stagnant ones that weren't doing a whole lot. We've replaced, I think we have two vacancies left, so almost back to full capacity at the airport again. The request that you see from us, really the only thing that I have that's not FAA related, CIP, which is a 90-10 match or 95-5 or state 30-70 match. is we're looking at replacing our payloader that's over 50 years old. It's a little small for the large snow blower we have. We use it for snow removal, and then sometimes in the summer we have to use it for dirt moving. But we have an 8,000-pound blower unit, and the payloader is a small 544B John Deere, so you stop, the rear end comes off the ground, so it's just a little small for as big as that blower is, and it's not very maneuverable. Had it on the wish list for quite a few years, and really, like I said, it's old and it's a little bit small. And could we get by another year? Yes, we could, but at some point we're going to have to replace it, and it's a needed item at the airport. The rest of the equipment's all been replaced by the FAA. So fortunately, we got 90-10, 95-5 on our plows and the blower unit and everything else. So really, other than CIP stuff for federal projects like airport layout plan, 5-year capital improvement plan, all that stuff is pretty much covered with federal money, 95-5. And so as that comes to fruition, the city has to front that all, so you'll see those large numbers. But then after that's fronted, those requests from the FAA basically get reimbursed back to the city. So other than that, I don't really know that there's much change in the budget at all.
So based on what you just said, so the runway 33 RSA environmental documentation, 180,000.
That's federal requirement in order for us to have the airport layout plan, which is mandated, or the master layout plan has to be updated every 5 years.
But does the 95.5 apply there? So in that situation?
Yes.
And so 95 of that would be reimbursed back once
By
the
the
project
federal
is
government,
completed?
Yes, by the FAA.
Okay.
Through their funding program. So unfortunately, for the airport to continue to get grant money, whether it's runway replacement, taxiway replacement, ramp replacement, sometimes buildings, we got lucky in the mid-2000s, we replaced our terminal building and our maintenance facility. That was $1 million project, and I think the city ended up paying $100,000 because it was a 95.5, got a 95.5 match on that, and our 90-10. It varies from year to year. It changes depending on what it is. Some years the FAA will fund landside projects like that, and then they move away from it. And so like runway, taxiway, rehab, all that. And eventually we're going to have to replace 1533 because that runway is getting old. They'll a lot of times step up, do 95.5. Sometimes they do emergency funding if it falls apart prior to our scheduled replacement. So but fortunately, we're one of the few that gets a lot of federal dollars to help pay for it, the project. And as long as we keep a certain status level of aircraft and operations at the airport, that federal funding keeps coming to the city of Sheldon.
2 and 3, what are the percentages on those and also?
With that,
The security fence, what are they paying on that percentage?
on the security,
Do you know?
oh, that'd be state. So if it's state, normally state funding for security is 70-30. Sometimes, the federal government, we've been trying to get the FAA to replace all the fencing around the airport. We have a major problem with deer. Even now, there's deer sitting out there. We have maybe a dozen head of female. They just sit out there, go back and forth, and you take the risks. A lot of times we'll drive down the runway, check to make sure they're out of there. So, but we've requested, we've actually had a study for that done by the FAA, and it's really hard to get them to fund fencing. And so the only thing we can do is request funding through the state. We can always request it from the FAA, but a lot of times it just gets.
And the drainage, is that state or federal?
But that
That's drainage, is that state?
drainage should be federal,
So 95.
because that's related to the runway. So sometimes the state will pitch in too. You might get them both on the same project. You'll get some funding from one and some funding from the other. So it just depends on the percentage that they're willing to fund. But like on the ALP and the airport layout master plan, all that, that's usually 90, 95, 5, depending on where they're at and what part of the budget.
So, and you said that our funding's because of use of the airport, we get, is that mainly because of the medevac stuff you're doing, or what is that?
Yeah, if you took our company out of there, the funding you would end up like Sibley or Rock Rapids. You could still probably request funding, but you're not guaranteed funding from the Fed. So I think right now I think they moved it to $160 a year. That's what they set aside. and we can build that for up to 4 years, so almost $500,000. Those are a lot of those projects come out of that from the FAA. We weren't there, and it was a smaller operation. It'd be like Sibley, Rock Rapids, some of the smaller airports where they have to go and either fund it through the city, or a lot of them request state funding where they only get 70%, and they may not get runway replacement, but sometimes the FAA will step in and fund some of that. But like runway lights and all that, that all falls under federal funding for us here at Sheldon. But it may not fall under that if we're smaller or we don't have capacity for it.
Okay, just follow up, this 160, you're getting 160 a year from the Fed because of just as a capital.
Yeah, that is what.
So is that where the 10% a lot of time or 5%?
Am I correct on that? Is it 160? I think it's 160 now. It used to be 150 per year of federal funding. And that's just because we're there and we're big enough and we have enough operations. And that's just put in an account, basically, and we can bank. It used to be 3 years. We can bank up to like 450,000. Now it's a little more than that. I think it's almost 600,000. We can use up to 4 years of that bank's money. And what that money is like I said, that's 90-10 or 95-5 money. So depending on what the project is. And then if, for whatever reason, let's say the runway needs replacement or refurb, and it's like $3.5 million, they will normally fund. They'll come in and evaluate the runway. They'll say, yeah, it's time to replace it. So then we request that funding from them, and they come up and say, yeah, we'll pay the 90% or 95%, depending on where they're at. And then the city has to match the other part of it. The hard part is the city has to fund all of that and then wait for reimbursement to come back. So that's the challenge sometimes. So some of those can get pretty big projects. So you have to fund a $3 million runway and then wait for the feds to pay you back. You have to cash flow that. So
Very interesting, thank you.
any other questions, anybody? All right, well, thank you. I'm going to go home and go to bed.
All right. Thanks, Lyle.
Thank you, Lyle. I'll go. Oh, no. I'll take your place.
Public Works, Todd.
Sheila.
Thank you.
Nobody needs to see that. for sure. All right, cemetery. We are requesting $50,000 from TIF for urban renewal funds to do some more road improvements out there. I'm happy to say that if this is approved, this would be the last of those roads to be redone. So we're excited for that. Another $10,000 to continue on with our stone repairs. So the stone repairs are for ones where there's, old ones, there's no family around, nobody to connect to. So we try to keep those set and safe. And then lastly, $13,000 for a GIS system for the cemetery. You're going to hear GIS a few times tonight because we would like to do this in several departments. What will it do for the cemetery? It will allow us essentially a web-based system where people can log in, see what lots are available for sale, what lots are not. You'll be able to look up where your family is buried. Where now they come to the office, we get out the great big old books that the cobwebs come out of when they flop them open, and it's close, Ange.
No, we've sold a lot lately. So
Yeah.
we're in a lot.
But anyways, it'll be should be very user friendly. So we did submit, ask the cemetery board for their blessing on that, and they are in support of it. The money that I have in every GIS line item going forward is for the product that we first had modeled for us, and that is currently coming in as the most expensive one. It was the one that I really thought we were going to recommend. I'm still budgeting for worst case scenario, but I'm telling you, we just recently had a presentation from another company called Subsurface Solutions, and we are currently pretty excited about their product. So we might be able to get this done a little cheaper than what we anticipated. Otherwise, the last bit of news I have for the cemetery is our cemetery section of 42-3 years is most likely going to be retiring sometime within the next year. So we will have to replace the position there. Questions about the cemetery?
GIS stands for?
I should have looked it up.
Okay. I don't feel so bad then.
Yeah,
It's all right. I
I'm
don't,
going to pretend it's geographical information system, but that's probably wrong.
sounds good to me.
Yeah. It'll do, it essentially, Greg, we'll make a map of the cemetery of each plot and lot. And then we're able to color code them for sale. We're able to put names right on them. It'll be something like that East Lawn has never seen before. Ange and I looked at a couple of different programs, and it's going to be really handy. We also think it'll help us utilize the lots that we have. Think about the center part, the center of the cemetery. There's alleyways and different lots in there that are for sale. But when somebody comes in to purchase, they never look there. They just assume that area is full. They always all go look in the new end. And there's some really nice lots for sale in the inner part of the cemetery that we think if we can show them a map and say, hey, there happens to be, 7 lots right here for sale, that maybe that'll help us sell, which then will slow down the, the need to develop more plots out there.
Any other communities around you using this software?
The subsurface solution one?
Yeah. Or the GIS either one?
GIS lots, yes. Yeah, we are one of probably the last ones to come on board. Sioux Center, Orange City, Sibley, Rock Rapids, I believe, has a GIS. Not sure. I think Hall started one. And they're not completed yet. One of the fears why I've been slow rolling the GIS a little bit is because it is a good tool, but you can't just upload it and let it sit there, right? So it's something that has to be utilized. And so I kept telling staff that they had to convince me that we were going to use this enough to justify the expenditure. And we're there. And I believe it'll be well used. And the cemetery was kind of a bonus. We were looking at it for water and wastewater and storm sewer. And then we happened to ask a question in one of the presentations about, man, it'd be nice if you did something for this in a cemetery. And they're like, well, looky here. So then we immediately got quotes on that as well. It's probably the one I'm most excited about, to be honest with you.
Dying to have it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
For that $10,000, how much do you get done in repair and stone?
Yeah, it varies a little bit. I would say 5 to 6 stones a year.
Oh, wow.
By the time you unset them, right, and then we typically have to pour a new foundation, and then you got to reset them. So you spend $1,000 to $2,000 per stone pretty easy. And some of those that we're doing are those great big old
monsters.
And they take more effort.
Does our staff do that, or do you hire that out?
We subcontract it. Typically, Getkin Monument and Farmers Market have been working together on those.
Okay.
So you're doing 5 to 6, you're projecting 5 to 6. What is the need out there at this time?
We're actually starting to get caught up. I don't know how many more years it'll never go away in its entirety. Yeah, but I believe we are starting to catch up. Rick has told me there's getting to be less, but then I noticed the other day I rode through there was 3 or 4 tipped over on the ground again. So we've got some work to do. The derecho didn't help us any. It knocked a few over. Speaking of that, we obviously have some more trees we got to get out of there
You
this
got
winter.
some trees that grow up really close to them, and
Yep.
I think you have a tree plan.
Yeah. But we've removed several hundred trees out of the cemetery, and a few more need to go. Anything else for cemetery? Okay, zoning / code enforcement. I told Steve to not bother coming tonight, that I would just present for him and that he could come back in front of the council if we were looking at a contract renewal later when his contract expires towards June. Anyways, yeah, if you don't know what Steve Hallgren and Planning Solutions does for us, he does a lot of zoning permit reviews. He meets with a lot of customers that are looking at plans for lots. He does our code enforcement, or at least assists with it. And read his monthly report. Steve provides us a monthly report that Sam links to the agendas. Usually it's the first meeting of the month, sometimes the second, depending upon when that meeting is. Sam and I would agree that having Steve as part of our team has been a blessing.
has helped us tremendously and do a much better job of serving our people in these capacities. His current contract is $33,280 a year. In the next fiscal year, he's looking for a 3% increase, bringing the contract to $34,280. And as I stated earlier, assuming monies are inserted into the budget, his actual contract will come back to you at a later date for discussion and potential action. Questions on that?
Well, Todd, you and I have had opportunity to talk about this. I'm glad we did have that opportunity. When he came the last time asking for multiple year contract, there was a lot of confusion, at least in my interpretation of that contract, based upon how many hours he was actually servicing Sheldon and the cost per hour of that. Can you speak to that in regards to clarifying what his obligation is to the city for the costs that he's asking, and in related to time spent?
Yeah. So what Tom is referencing is he was wondering if there was a specific number of hours that we got from Steve a week or a month. And the answer to that is no. Steve does the work that we need Steve to do, is essentially right. So obviously there are times in the winter where the zoning load is lower, where he doesn't work as many hours, but in the summer, if the zoning load is high and the nuisance abatement hours are high, he works for the same monthly contract price. The only extra, so to speak, is we do pay him some mileage when he comes from Spencer to Sheldon, but many times he has other clients near us, so many times that mileage is split between us and other clients. So there is no overtime or extra time rate for Steve unless we ask him to do something that is outside the scope of services outlined in the contract, which he'll review here sometime in the next couple of months. Is that what you're looking for, Tom?
Yeah. And the reason I came to Todd to begin with on this was based upon the fact that we've had discussions as a council in regards to whether or not we need to increase our activity in this area for the community. And if we do, that's going to, that burden's going to rest upon Steve to facilitate those expectations. And so if the way it was outlined in his first contract, where he was working 1 day a week for us, it wasn't clear to me what the end cost of that would be. But from what he stated now, and from my understanding of that is that we've got some leeway to expand our enforcement expectations before I think we need to, before he needs to offer us any variances in contract. I don't know if you've had those discussions with him. I don't know if we're even going to do it, go beyond, the rate that we're doing it today. But if we've got a contract coming up, we should iron that out.
Yeah, fair enough. And my only comment back to that would be is, as I think there is some room and discussions that can happen, but if we are looking at a significant change in scope, we should give him the opportunity to potentially present a different contract with the new scope in mind.
In my conversations with Steve, he suggested that maybe we could find some efficiencies with cleanup of our code or investing some money in our code to make it easier to pursue some of these things. So maybe something we want to take a look at if we decide to look at the scope. But really quickly, what impact, is there a dollar number you can put on the impact we've had by adding him in taking load off of you and Sam? You talked about that and you said it's made your life a lot better, but.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I can put a dollar amount to it, Jeff. Maybe you can, Sam, but I probably can't. But, I would relate it mainly to this, Jeff. The higher the stack is on the desk, the more things you do just do good enough to get by. And when the stack gets a little smaller, you're able to actually give things the time and effort that they appropriately need. And we already juggle a lot within our staff, and having him, I think, well, I don't think, I know, makes it a lot easier on us. But I also believe that we're getting a better product, not only with zoning permit review, but with nuisance abatement. He's thorough, and in my opinion, the stuff that he's putting out to our people is much more professional than what was coming out of our office.
So
But that's my
would you
opinion.
recommend we do it again then?
Absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't hesitate with that. Anything else for zoning? All right, park. Park is also going to be affected a little bit by the retirement. As you know, we switched that job description a couple of years ago, and the cemetery sexton is sharing some duties in the parks because we don't have any other full-time employees in our parks. So we're continuing to ask for $35,000 from Lost. We've been doing lots of little upgrades with that, picnic tables, trash cans, other facilities around parks. I will say this, we did receive an anonymous donation here not so long ago of $18,500 that's going to put a bunch of new, I'm actually going to order them close to spring here. I didn't bring the list up here, but multiple picnic tables and trash cans and some other things that the donor, they asked me what our needs were. I give them a list and they give Angie a check. So we can't thank them enough, other than can't tell you who it is. Otherwise, we're just wanting to up the park spraying and mowing a little bit. We haven't fertilized or been treating our parks for crabgrass or the cemetery, and crabgrass was a real problem last year. So I would like to spend some extra dollars to try to get ahead of some of that this next year, and try to make our areas look a little nicer. Obviously, the Park and Recreation Board is working on the master plan, and they did get a proposal from BEI to start reviewing that next step of the western side. They are planning to review that next week, not to take any action, give it a month to soak in, and then maybe sometime in March, bring it back to you guys if they are in favor of moving it forward. So that is currently where that process is at. Questions on park?
What is hot?
Hotel motel.
Okay.
Our acronyms.
I did not make that up.
I know.
Yeah.
I wondered about that. I said, no, that's
Yeah.
no M in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it from Ange.
All righty.
So it must be right.
That's all I needed.
As we're moving forward with the park, theoretically moving forward conversations about park, should there be some money in this budget for consulting, or how does that normally handled?
I would say yes. What we kind of discussed at the last council meeting is there was some money in the current fiscal year that could be potentially utilized for that arts project. And now, since that got moved to the park, potentially using those funds for the consulting fees.
Instead of the arch at this point, repurposing those funds in? Is that what you're saying?
Instead of just specifically going towards the arch, going towards the park plan with the arch in the park. That's the direction we got here. Was that 40,000, I believe? Yeah. Did I answer that, Jeff? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So would it be beneficial for the parks and that, for maintenance and that, to bring back the part-time people like we used to have Dave Hillary and Glenn, and that used to do the summer maintenance and that, to keep the parks updated and maintained?
Yeah, we had a number of good part-timers over the years, Brad.
Yep.
Finding the good part-timers lately hasn't been real successful. Finding people that want to work in the summer and not the winter hasn't been real successful. I get a lot of people that want to mow, but they don't necessarily want to scrub bathrooms and clean garbages and those type of things. I get calls all the time. Could I come sit on a mower for you? No, that's really not what we need. So maybe we just haven't been successful. We used to hire, if you recall, we used to hire quite a few college kids, high school kids. We had 2 or 3 teachers that would work for us in the summer. We haven't done that in a lot of years too. And part of the reason for that is school gets done June. School extracurriculars start August 1. You know more than get them going, and then they're gone. And especially if there's a week of vacation in there or so. I don't know. It hasn't been extremely successful. We don't get Jared Johnson. He worked for us 6 summers in high school and college. We just don't get that anymore.
So just to clarify, we can't find the people to do it, so we don't budget to do it, or we don't have the needs. I'm trying to connect the 2 parts of that question.
So that's why we went to contract mowing, okay, for the cemetery and the parks.
Right.
And then we took the cemetery sexton who used to only work in the cemetery and then help with snow removal in the wintertime. And he now does cemetery and parks maintenance. And then obviously still open and closes graves at the cemetery.
But Brad, were you suggesting there was a need for an additional help to do some additional maintenance, or what was the background of the question?
I just asked a question about ongoing maintenance, if we could improve the maintenance, because came out of the park thing, maintenance, kept hearing lack of maintenance.
Should we be budgeting for some more maintenance than what we budgeted for?
I mean, some of the stuff that you're hearing lack of maintenance, I mean, like if we're referencing the playground as an example, I don't know how many times we haven't sealed that playground.
Yeah.
You just have to remember a lot of that stuff is 30 to 40-year-old wood structures, and they have lived their useful life. We're kind of to the point of, in my opinion, replacement on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I do hear what you're saying, Brad. If there's a way to up it, and maybe I can do that with some of my, fill some more gaps with some of my other public works and or park and rec staff. That's been one of the hopes when we brought the second rec person back full time, was to have them start doing more in the parks, which they are. The problem with the turnover there is you lose some of the momentum that we had with some of the others. But we do need to ramp back up. That's fair. Yeah. I don't know that our budget level is short. I mean, I would love to have 3 full-time park guys, but I don't think the budget will support that.
Is there opportunity for like volunteer groups to do different projects?
Yeah, and we've had some of that. You've been involved in more than one of those. We're always willing to listen. Some of those are rather successful. Some of them not as much. But we typically aren't going to turn people away. Anything else for park? Road use tax, street department. We basically just have some equipment needs that we're looking at replacing. A few odds and ends, a sweeper for the skid loader, update a pickup to replace a 2007, some garage doors and some other fine things. We hope to spend around $75,000 again on some crack sealing and chip sealing. We really do believe that getting back heavily on that program has prolonged the life of a lot of our asphalt streets. We believe it's been reasonably successful. I know sometimes the chip sealing is not people's favorite for the period of time while it's getting worked in and dusty, but at the end of the day, we have seen good results from that. Road use tax is supposed to be the engine or one of the engines that we use for a lot of road maintenance. I'm going to be honest with you, it's not. We do some out of rut, but rut is constantly, I'd say we're tell Ange and Sam we're finding 1-year fixes every year. but we get by. Thankfully, we've been able to, use some urban renewal funds and do a lot of road replacements, Western Avenue and a couple of different structures of oak and pine and South Third and Rainbow Drive. I mean, there's a lot of good success stories, I think, there. We are looking to want to do some updating to the tree dump. We would like to actually build a pad on grade with some drainage out there so that we're not always constantly working out of a mud hole. The team and I, and really that's not a function of the street department. It's just somebody's got to maintain it. So they're the ones out there pushing it up and monitoring it or whatever. We kind of realized here this past year that where we currently have the tree dump seemed like a really, really good idea when we put it there. And then it's been there quite a few years. And then we had a water main break. Well, we had a couple fires too, but we had a water main break out there one day on a raw water line, and it was almost underneath that pile. And we realized this is a really stupid place to have this pile. Because if that break would have been underneath that pile, we'd have been hiring an excavator to move the pile so we could fix the raw water line. So we really need to get that thing moved. We actually want to move it across the road to the south and then build a pad with a good 2% grade on it so we can shed water and hopefully give the citizens a nicer area to work off of. But that's going to require bringing in a fair amount of dirt and then some granular product, hence the $90,000. So is it a must? No. If there happens to be fun, I have lost in my memo, but after going through things with Sam and Ange, we don't think lost is going to work simply because of funding restrictions. We do think it would qualify under the urban renewal plan, but it would take an update to the plan. So we wouldn't propose doing this unless we actually have to update the plan for some other reason. Otherwise, just something to keep in mind, we got to finish Western Avenue this spring. And then the next big road project we have in the hopper is 2nd Avenue, and that is scheduled for summer of 2028. We're asking for some design dollars in this budget so that we can start getting plans and specifications ready and then bid for summer of 28 construction. Questions on road use tax?
The 2nd Avenue project, what do you envision the dimensions of that from where to where?
Water plant to maintainer.
Oh, the whole thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. City limit line to city limit line. Some of it is full depth replacement. Some of it will be partial depth patching. Some of it will be mill asphalt, put asphalt back in. Some of it will be some stormwater improvements. I mean, these are things that are in my mind. We haven't started designing anything yet, but those are the type of things that are in our mind. As a reminder, we currently are projecting that project to be somewhere between $3 and $3.5 million dollars, and we did receive $1.3 million in grant funds to help us out with that. But like Lyle mentioned with the airport, we have to front it and then we'll get reimbursed. But 1.3 is better than nothing.
How many pickups in your fleet?
Just in rut?
Well, you've got a replacing one. I'm just curious where you are in that whole replacement project is.
Yeah, so the one I would likely get rid of is the 2007. I think in public works in general, I think we have 13 pickups, something like that, varying in years between 07 and 2022, something like that. The hope so long story, Jeff, but I took over as public works director in 2005, and we were driving junk, and we were riding 2-3 wide in a pickup all the time and rusted out. And anyways, in 2007, we really started to try to get a little more aggressive with buying vehicles. We bought 3 and 7 and 1 and 8 and 1 and 9, and now we've started to really spread them out more. But when we started in 2007, our goal was to never have a pickup older than 10 years old. I still have all 3 2007s. But some of that's how we've expanded our fleet a little bit, is just by not, we buy regular cab, long boxes, fairly plain Jane, so they're not worth a lot of money by the time we have them for 10, 12 years. So we've been kind of hanging on to them and moving them around a little more.
Just a question I was asked. Thank you.
Yep. Next.
Yep.
Okay, rec and pool. So obviously the recreation department services a lot of kids. You see he's got his memo here. Around 1,600 participants typically in our recreation programs. So getting good participation there. The pool is, I call it the new pool still, but it's been online now for, I don't know, 15 years, 13 years, something like that. No, 15, 16, 17, 2008.
It was here when I moved in here in 2008. So.
Yeah. So 17 years, I guess. Yeah, going on 18. So anyways, we are putting in a new children's slide this year. It's on order. We got the bill the other day, so I'm hoping it shows up soon. It's not a moneymaker. We're seeing that gap widen a little bit as we have to spend a little more money on paint, slides, pumps, those types of things. But overall, I think it's still a pretty good asset to our community. So I will stop there with Park and Rec, or with Rec and Pool, unless you have questions.
Go ahead. Go on.
Okay, stormwater. Is that my next one? Yeah. Stormwater. So that's the utility that started at the beginning of this fiscal year. The newest round of bills just went out to include the people that didn't have water and sewer services. Revenues are coming in about as we expected. So we should be close. Well, in year one, we won't collect $100,000 because everything didn't get started at the same time, but we're projecting $100,000 in revenue in FY27. The only thing I will comment on that is as that second round of bills went out for covering the buildings that didn't have water and sewer services, I'm getting more phone calls that I believe they might have a valid point that our system is slightly flawed on the non-metered accounts. We're getting people that they get a $3 charge at their house, and then they have a garage somewhere that's substantially smaller in square footage, and they're getting a $12 fee there, and they're kind of like, hey, time out, what the crap is this? We kind of picked the $12. We were thinking that a lot of those buildings were going to be larger, and a lot of those lots were going to be larger. So I guess what I'm saying is this, there might be some validity to those comments. So I actually spoke to Angie today about having Pat run me the reports and maybe here over the next 30 days, take a closer look at that and potentially offer up an ordinance amendment for you guys to consider that would have maybe on the non-metered part some different levels of charges. So try to make it a little more fair and equitable to that marketplace. So that's all I have for stormwater. Unless
So
you have
whether you've got a
questions.
500 square foot building or 5,000, you're paying $12 without a meter.
Yep.
Probably a good idea.
Yep. I keep in my mind when we were going through talking about creating that utility, the council said, keep it simple. And I really think we did. Maybe right there, we kept it a little too simple. So it won't be a hard fix, I don't think. We're not talking about thousands of customers. Probably less than 100 AMs that I need to evaluate, maybe.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So look forward to seeing something in the future. Wastewater. Some general things. The GIS again, 50,000 for that for wastewater. 17,000 for some UV bulbs. Those are the disinfectant bulbs we use. We have to, during certain months of the year, we actually have to disinfect the wastewater charge before it goes deployed, but we don't have to disinfect in the winter months because nobody's swimming in the fluid in the winter months, but they are in the summer. Might have sensed some sarcasm there.
I thought you were
We're continuing with $100,000 a year working on I&I infiltration and inflow. I believe that is making some difference in our system, with lining pipes and manholes and whatnot. The big thing that at some point during this budget that I think that we need to get together on is what do we want to do with the North Fifth lift station? So as you may recall, in the floods of 24, the North Fifth lift station went underneath water. That lift station provides service to about 30% of our community. That obviously made for a difficult time for myself and my staff, and more so the customers that didn't have an operational lift station during that flood. We tried to get mitigation funds through the FEMA and Homeland Security. We're unsuccessful. We did get some funds to repair the damage, but we didn't qualify for mitigation funds for upgrading it. I tried every angle I could think of, and it was just unsuccessful. Anyways, so Dean Paulson, wastewater superintendent, in his mind, there's only one option. And that option is to take as much of the equipment and structures as we can, move it to the highest ground possible, which is just, a couple 100 feet to the west. You could move it up 20 feet. You'll never have those structures go underwater again. Or if we do, we've got much bigger problems. His reasoning for that is that gives our customers max protection. The problem with it is max protection is max dollars. Talking with Jared Johnson about flood frequencies. In the last 10 years, we've had two 100-year floods, and we've had a 500-year flood, and we've had the 24 flood, which is listed somewhere between, I've been told, 1,000-year and 5,000-year flood. We survived the 100-year, and we survived the 500-year without having that lift station go underwater. We, however, did not survive the 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever the last one was. When Dean and I talk about it, we feel like if it happened once, we should plan that it can and will happen again. We think we probably owe that to our customers to at least understand that there's a capability. So I guess what I'm getting at is the expensive way, which is moving everything, is about a $750,000 project. If you wanted to go to something that offers a level of flood protection, but not as much, would say be putting some sort of a flood wall around it with removable stackable gates that you put in before the flood comes, your access point. We could do something like that for about $250,000, give or take. So it's a lot less money. It offers a smaller level of protection. You potentially leave your lift station with a moat around it, and you can't get to it in the emergency. That's the downside of it. But it certainly offers more protection than what we have today if we have another event like that. So, at some point I'm going to need direction, I guess, from the council as to what level of protection are we going to offer going forward. Is it nothing? Is it medium, which I would say is the $250,000 fix, or is it high level of protection, which is the $750,000 fix? I don't think that that's a decision that staff can make on their own. We certainly need input and direction from our elected leaders there.
Now, we did have some discussion, council level, earlier in the year 2025 on this.
Yep.
And another requirement for the east side development expansion is more capacity at that station as well. And I think we talked a little bit about the feasibility of are we going to add another station for that extra capacity, or can we just make this one larger and move it at the same time and kill two birds with one stone? Seems to me there were some downsides to that as well. So
there are. I mean, so the biggest area we're undersized would be the pipeline going to the lift station. So the pipeline that runs underground from, say, Ziegler Cat all the way to the lift station, because all that water goes that way. Really, from McDonald's to the lift station, there are several sections that should be or need to be upsized if we're going to continue development in that direction. They are running at or near top of capacity right now. So could we do ourselves some good by upsizing the pipeline from the lift station approximately 1,700 feet east to Washington Avenue? Yes. That would have some reduction of backup. Then further up, it would get water to the lift station quicker. Based on the flow and pump down tests we did, we believe we could go up another size of pump to increase capacity without upsizing the structure.
So with that, with that kind of a project, scope of that, would that make that project more feasible for extra funding or grants that doesn't just by just relocating a current capacity?
It's a good question. I'm not sure that it does, Tom. I'm not sure that it helps our case any.
Okay.
It might help us qualify to use a different funding source instead of only rates.
Might be something to look at when we're looking at a spread of $500,000 between option A and B.
Yeah, so option C then is we run pipeline to Washington, add another 400,000.
Right.
Yeah, 1.15 to 1.2.
Right.
I already know that.
I mean, we're adding land out there as of this month, so we're eventually going to be putting infrastructure out there. We're going to be continuing to add money to a problem that's going to have to be addressed somehow.
Right. But something I'll remind you of, and it's a little bit off base, but not 100%, is we have shared that if and when you develop the property that you're in the process of purchasing, the grants for property, that we need to upsize the sewer from McDonald's to that lift station. And that most likely will be happening by a force main that runs around the north side of town, and most likely will cost in the $2 to $3 million range. Those are old numbers, so it's probably worse than that.
And how many years down the road do you think?
Tell me when you're going to open up the next 35 acres for development.
I'll leave that up to SCDC director. Tell us that.
But that plays back into, as we look at a 100-year, 500,000-year flood, that pipe has also had some problems with us in the past because of water that infiltrates that system, backing up all that community. So it's not just about growth, it's also about our ability in those 100, 500,000-year floods to handle what we're putting into the sewer system. Is that fair to say?
I'd say yes.
Okay, second question. A lot of our budget, Sam, has already, as you built this budget, most of the stuff that's in these sheets has already been budgeted for. So of the 750, how much have we already budgeted for of that? Or is that an outlayer of the process you used for other things?
30% of that is for your consideration in a potential note.
Okay.
Because we talked about using 30%. Sorry if I stepped over your answer there, Sam, but 30% of it, we're what we have built in is 30% would be bonded for, or potentially up to 30%. And then what we would need to decide, Jeff, is if we would want to use cash reserves from the wastewater fund for the balance, or look at some more bonding, which wastewater reserves are sitting in a very good position right now. I would not have heartburn for using 300,000-400,000 of wastewater reserves towards a project, maybe even up to 500,000. I would want to consult with those two before we lock that number in 100%. But we've done a good job of building up some cash reserves there to be able to do some of that if we need to. If you picked option A, which was to build the flood wall around it, I would suggest we didn't borrow any money. We'd just use cash reserves to build the wall. If you suggest that we do option C, which is 1.1 million, then we need to figure out if we're going to borrow some money and spend what we're going to spend down in reserves.
And the 1.1 is increasing to Washington Avenue?
Correct.
And you're recommending that or not? Because the budget doesn't say that, but I'm hearing that.
No, I'm just saying if that's the option that chose. If you're going to Tom's point, if you know you're going to have to do it anyway, and you want to start upsizing some of that, and it potentially qualifies you for some other funding sources, it's an option that could be added on. If you pick the option A, flood wall, I don't think there's any reason to talk about extending pipe this year. If you pick the $750,000, let's relocate stuff, it might be worth having a conversation on if it makes sense to bond for a little more and run that pipeline out to Washington and try to take some relief off that first section.
All right, let's keep moving here.
Okay, is that it for waste? I don't have anything else for wastewater unless you have more questions. Well, we're recommending a 3.3% increase in rates. That follows the rate study that we did a few years ago. There's 1 year left on that rate study. We'll likely look at freshening up the water and wastewater rate studies towards the end of FY27. So that way you have some information going on the next 5-year cycle soon. Okay, questions on that? Water, a lot of housekeeping items. 2 items that I'll just hit on. We're recommending a 6% increase to water rates. That again follows the rate study that was completed a number of years ago. Water cash reserves are down right now, but they're down because we just spent $500,000 repainting the West Water Tower, and we spent about $850,000 doing the LNC connection a couple of years ago. So we used a lot of cash reserves. We anticipated this dip. We need to take some time now to build our reserves back up, but we did $1.3 million of the work and didn't have to borrow money to do it. So I believe that that's a success story in what we're doing with our rate structures. Did want to mention though, and I mentioned it the other day, prior to February of 29, we are going to have to take on some debt, approximately 1.4 million, I'm estimating, to finish making the payments on the first expansion of Lewis and Clark. As a reminder, we currently get 1.3 million gallons a day from Lewis and Clark. In 2030 or 2031, when the first expansion of Lewis and Clark is done, we'll have 2.056 million gallons a day available to us. We've been paying cash for that as we go forward. That cash is coming from the water surcharge on our water bills and from the water sales to Clay Rural Water in South Dakota and Sioux Center, just 30 miles.
Todd,
Yeah.
we've been successful at selling off that excess capacity. Do
Yes,
you
sir.
anticipate that that'll continue?
I'm already having multiple conversations with multiple different entities. So far, I don't have people beating my door down to get it, but I think that's because it's early. I think they're having a hard time envisioning when they're going to want the water. I'll continue to have conversations, Pete. If we don't find a home for it, we have to be prepared to pay for it. We'll have to pay the capacity charge on any water we don't sell, which is 67 cents a thousand, which isn't that big deal until it's 756 times 67. That's however many dollars a day it is, times 365. That becomes a big number.
And isn't it true that out of the total members of Lewis and Clark, there's only a limited amount of members that we can actually sell water to?
Yeah, we are limited to members that that our water is designed to go down that pipeline. If it wasn't for that, I'd have a deal done with Harrisburg already, or Sioux Falls, or T, or somebody else in the Sioux Falls metro.
Right.
But we are not able to sell water to them because our water is not designed to go down that pipeline. So that actually puts burden on other members. Therefore, we can't do it.
So we're going to increase by 1 million gallons at that point. And our-
756.
756, and our net on that is what? After we're going to sell it for a margin of what?
Well, I don't have those contracts made yet. Right now, our margin is 30 cents a thousand,
Okay.
plus the rate reduction of 67 cents a thousand.
Right.
So the net is 97 cents a thousand.
Okay.
And we sell about 750,000 gallons a day starting January 1. $250,000. Give or
So have
take.
you ever done the math on how long that payback is on that? If we were able to sell it, how long our payback is on that additional investment?
The initial investment, no. I haven't.
Additional investment.
For the 4 million?
Well, yeah, I think you said we have about a 1.3 we have to write out.
Well, right, but I mean, so the total to get that 756 was close to 4 million, Jeff. 3.5 to 4 million, something like that. And we're going to pay cash for up to, except for the last 1.4. No, I haven't. But to be honest with you, we didn't necessarily buy it, or the vision wasn't to buy it to sell it. The vision was to buy it in case we need it if we get a wet user or whatever. So I've stated before that our contracts are fine, but they've been short-term contracts. So negotiating those short-term contracts is different than if you're saying, I'm going to give you water forever.
Well, I think it's great. I just think the public needs to understand, the upside of the risk we take.
Sure. Yeah. Anything else for water?
Are you doing trails?
I think it's my lucky day, Greg.
Okay.
So Ange and I met with Terry Elgersma, the trail chair, and kind of went over her memo. Essentially, trails would like to, they got a few oddball projects in this current fiscal year. They're going to finish up with some benches and garbage receptacles and whatnot. Their intent is to hire a consultant and look at adding another section of trail. They would like to add a section of trail from East 9th going south to the water tower on the west side of Country Club Road, potentially towards the end of FY27, if prices come back where they think. And they are willing to spend trails cash if they can't find grant funds to help with it. I think they want to get to 16th Street there so they can start working their way around the southern end of town somehow at some time. So, and they graciously agreed to pay for $5,000 worth of our broom for the skid loader because we use it a lot on the trails. Fun fact, might not be fun for you, but the trails actually bought the original street sweeper or trail sweeper that we're replacing now a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pete knew that, right? That's all I have for trails. And I asked Terry, called her today and asked if she had anything else to share, and she said no. Questions? Good. I'll sit down.
All right, thank you, Todd. All right, we've been at this for 2 hours and 40 minutes. No, 2 hours and 10 minutes, excuse me. I'm ready for a break. I don't know about anybody else. A 10-minute recess or less. Anybody want to, you want to keep going or you want to take a break?
Keep going.
Okay. Moving on.
By the way, I'm proud of all of you for staying awake.
Yes.
And participating.
Moving on to the non-department key partners. Mike is not here, so I'm assuming there's no report for city attorney. Human Resources, Brandy.
Hi, I'm Brandy Burrington, and I'm the city human resource consultant. Bear with me, I have a bit of a cold, so if you can't hear me, just let me know. Okay. I just want to recap a little bit about what we did this last year. It's been about a year since we started consulting for the City of Sheldon center benefits. Our primary projects have been, we reviewed all of the city's full-time and a couple regular part-time job descriptions. Another larger project was just helping with the annual wage increase for our staff and doing some market analysis with that. And then just helping other employee relations items. That was fairly popular too. We kind of see that in the first year of having HR that staff are just trying to get acquainted with us and our role here. And then we also supported the library and other departments through recruitment efforts, onboarding, offboarding. I participated in quite a few in the exit interviews that occurred with the city this year for full-time staff. I was able to pull out some good information and helpful information for department heads at that time, just for either retention or recruitment initiatives related to that. And I believe, oh, and then the death on duty policy, the death on and off duty policy, I also spent a bit of time working on that as well. Yeah. For the next year, we're hoping to make an update to the city personnel manual. The city personnel manual, I think Sam has done a great job updating it throughout time. We're going to do overview and kind of make sure that everything is up to date and has the correct compliance and legal language. In addition to that, with the collective bargaining agreement dissolving this summer, we'll also be kind of looking into how to either include some of those policies or what to do in that case or event. Just assistance with helping keep policies up to date overall, and utilizing our new job descriptions for completion of a market analysis, also benefits analysis, and assistance with new onboarding employees, or onboarding new employees. So we have a system that we're working to put together for the city. It's called EASE. It's a electronic system where we can help onboard employees. Kind of takes the burden a little bit off of Angie. She can send a link to a new hire, and they go ahead and fill out their onboarding information and provide her with the documents she needs without her having to continually hunt them down, hopefully. That is the goal. And then it also houses some benefits for employees so they can see their full benefit package. If they wanted to, if the city wanted to use it for open enrollment purposes, they could, where employees could elect or waive benefits at that time. So those are some of my plans for this next year. Any questions?
So I know during our initial discussions, when we were looking at putting on an HR competency, one of the things that we felt that we could benefit from is some standardization on how we give reviews to employees, as well as utilizing the review process to establish a career path options for the employees. Have we looked at that yet, or is that one of those basic HR packages that we need to instill yet?
I started off by just reviewing the evaluation form this last year and trying to standardize the language in the form itself. And I've talked to some department heads about potentially doing some evaluation training with our leaders to help them understand what a good evaluation looks like and how to evaluate performance well. So we have that started, but I think what you're talking about is a little more in depth than that we could add.
All right. Any other questions for Brandy? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Anyone here for IT, managed services?
And was able to make it.
Okay. SCDC.
Tania Herrera, SCDC Executive Director. Our memo is in your agenda. It is pretty straightforward and it's pretty much the same from last year. There is a 3% increase requested for operational costs for a total of $139,000. And then the annual $20,000 storefront contribution for the integrity of the program. We are also looking at reviewing and revisiting the storefront and interior renovation program. to potentially be able to open it up to additional businesses and additional uses. So that ask may be a little bit different next year, but as we have more information there, I'll make sure to share that with you. There's also a 5-year CIP in there that is just based on the 3-tiered land acquisition program that we established in the summer of 2025 and that we are actively working on now, with the example of the land recently acquired for residential purposes and the future industrial land that we are working on acquiring as well. So pretty short, but if there are any questions, I am happy to answer those. All right. Thank you for your continued support.
Permitting, zoning, code enforcement, we've covered that, right? And township fire service and ambulance service outside of the city limits, anything there? Anything further?
Oh, that was mentioned earlier too. There's
Yeah.
2 attachments there that are worth reading, but the rest is fine.
Okay. Children's World, is that you guys? Yes, thank you for your patience.
Oh, thank you guys. We're going to say a big thank you. Yeah, we have a letter for you guys, which I'm going to read off, but big thank you to you guys for letting us change the day from tomorrow to today. A lot of us are, oh goodness,
Thank you.
just have different scheduling commitments for tomorrow. So we're appreciative of that. My name is Bree Otkin. I'm a board member, and I am just going to read through what you guys were just given letter-wise, and we'll go from there. So the Children's World Board of Directors would like to extend a sincere thank you to the Sheldon City Council for approving the rate buy-down grants. Because of the grant, we have been able to provide 21 families a credit of $40 per week since July, totaling $25,120 so far. The initial grant was for $43,680, leaving a remainder of $18,560. The feedback from families has been positive, and they are greatly appreciative of the assistance. We have had an increase in infant enrollment and have had to create an additional infant room as our current spaces are at capacity. That room was the last empty or available room in the center. To start, the grant was set up for $40 per week for 28 infants. However, in July, we did not have 28 infants enrolled and would not use the entirety of the grant. So the city set aside extra money in a supplemental grant of $14,680 for us to apply for if our enrollment numbers increased. We are requesting relinquishing the remainder of the grant money to Children's World to be applied to our operational funds. This money would be used to furnish the new infant room that was created due to increased infant enrollment. Before the new room can be utilized, there are several needs to be addressed, totaling an estimated of $12,000. Some of these needs include fixing the large crack in the drywall to make sure the room is structurally sound, purchasing a very large gate around like their play area, and buying other furniture for the room. Once the remainder of the initial grant money is gone, the program would be finished for 2026. We are requesting that the rate buy-down program not continue after July 2026. Unfortunately, we can't adequately sustain increased enrollment numbers with our current building. We are at capacity in most of our rooms. Currently, after adding the second infant room, our capacity will be 47 infants. However, when these infants turn 6 months and move up, sorry, that's supposed to be 12 months and move up to the toddler rooms, the capacity drops to 40 toddlers between the 2 rooms. Once these children turn 2 years old, the room capacity is 24 children. Without expansion, we would have to end care for currently enrolled families. Currently, Children's World has a greater need for expansion versus a need for more families. So below that next section includes our current enrollment numbers and outlook. So infants, that's 2 weeks to 6 months. Capacity is 12. Enrolled is 14. Mobiles, 6 to 12 months. Capacity 20. Enrolled 15. Toddler A, 12 to 18 months. Capacity 20. Enrolled 17. Toddler B, 18 to 24 months. Capacity 20. Enrolled 15. 2s, they're at capacity at 24. 3s, capacity 24. Enrolled 18. Some kids moved up, and we'll talk about the others in a bit. 4s and 5s, capacity is 20. There are 33 enrolled. However, you know, your staffing needs, so there is a new hired new staff for the 5s room, so that'll be split. School crew capacity is 26, and there are 40 enrolled. 15 infants have held their spots to begin care between February 2026 this month and January 2027. There will likely be more than 15 infants, as the current 15 are only the ones that put down their deposit to hold their spots. 3 children are on hold for maternity leave, so that impacts the numbers above. Their parents had another baby, and they are out because of that, and they will return in the next 1 to 2 months. That doesn't show up in the numbers above. If the center hits capacity on a day, the overflow room is utilized, if necessary, which can house 18 children between 4s, 5s, and school crew. The new infant room will be 9 months to pre-toddler age, and that will be licensed for 15 children. It is important to remember throughout all of this that just because the room capacities are stated to be at one number doesn't mean it's the best choice to max them out. Children's World takes into careful consideration the safety and logical amount of a space a child should have versus relying solely on the state's assessment of square footage. For example, a state licensing consultant came and remeasured rooms. One room was originally measured for 16 babies and was bumped up to 20 babies. I believe that was a mobiles. 16 was already a tight fit in that room, and an increase to 20 is baffling for that room. So it's important to remember that children also might have to move up or down to other rooms to match capacity and staffing needs. So some wiggle room in those numbers is necessary for safety. One of the most important things to remember is that the babies get older. Center Director Taylor Caskey has done a phenomenal job to ensure children are able to start as infants and age out when the family is ready to end daycare services, which is not how the center was always run. But we also need to ensure the facility is able to safely accommodate that goal. Children's World wants to keep families and give them the comfort to grow with the center. Because of the outlook of center needs, we are requesting the operational grant be substantially increased from the current $31,200 to be set aside for center expansion. We are in the very early stages of the expansion process and do not have an exact cost at this time, but assume it will be well over $1 million. While we don't have an exact cost, we have begun the process of gathering proposals for architect plans with the current proposal fee totaling an estimated $6,550. The board is willing to keep the council informed of definitive numbers and decisions if desired. While we agree on the benefit of having funds having a direct impact on families and appreciate the impact funds have had on the infants, the board asks the council to consider increasing the impact on families as they grow through the center, ensuring they're able to do so. Expanding the center will allow us to accept more children of all ages, which in turn will provide the opportunity for more families to return to work. It will also allow families to stay in work when their kids move up to the 2- and 3-year-old rooms, the lower capacities in those rooms. The City Council has always had a goal to expand city, and we truly believe in order to do this, the city needs to invest in the future of Sheldon by expanding childcare in Children's World, the only licensed childcare center in Sheldon and the largest in O'Brien County. When new families look at cities to move to, one of the main things they look for is childcare. If we have to turn families away from receiving childcare, the chances of them moving to Sheldon decrease. We've had several recent new families move to the area with several children. For example, one had an infant, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old. We could accept the infant, but not the 2- or 4-year-old as the rooms are at capacity. Because of this, the mother could not join the workforce as desired, as she needed someone to care for her children. Another coworker of one of the board members relocated to the area from out of state this month. She has a 4-year-old and an infant. Children's World was able to take the infant, but not the 4-year-old. This family ended up having to take their 4-year-old to Boyden's daycare and they kept their infant in Children's World. While families of infants appreciate the $40 credit, they are established families who are still going to opt to receive care without the credit. The overall consensus is that families would rather have consistent care without worry about being waitlisted after their child ages up to a room at capacity rather than receive that $40 credit. The pilot program has much value and may be worthwhile to consider in the future when we have adequate space for increased enrollment. However, at this time, we see the greater value in substantially increasing the operational grant money to expand the center so the program can house what we need as our enrollment increases. Additionally, we see value in relinquishing the remainder of the supplemental grant funds of $14,680 to furnish the new infant room as the enrollment has increased. Many people who have not seen the center or walked through the hallways on the busiest days could look at numbers and say, well, it's not so bad, we can cram a few more kids in, but to do so safely is another conversation. as always, we would love to have any of you guys come take a tour of the facility to better understand capacity and needs. Should that be helpful? Should have maybe had others introduce themselves before, but I was going to say, we could do that. Any questions?
In your goal to increase the area, is it mostly for children that are going to move up? I'm assuming so.
Yeah, and I mean, especially those families for those examples, they had older kids they wanted to enroll and weren't able to. So we have, the increased numbers in kids that are going to move up, but then I think there is a large sum. If they do move here and their kids are older, they're like kind of out of luck for a licensed center, like as big as we are with that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know Taylor's exact plans. She has some in mind of the amount of rooms. I forget what the plan wrote, what it said, but the amount of rooms she wanted, and I'm sure she has in mind for like a second 2-year-old room, 3-year-old room, 4-year-old room, that kind of stuff. So.
I'm a little confused. You asked for additional money because the cost of infants was so expensive. And so the council funded a significant amount of money to buy down the infant dollars. And now you come back and say, well, they really didn't need the money. They already had the money, and that wasn't significant. So my question, I guess, or what's bothering me is, how did that change, or how did you not know? And how do we fund the next time knowing that because it's just very confusing to me. We need low-income, lower-cost housing, we need lower daycare, and now you're coming back and telling us, and I'm not blaming you at all, I'm just looking as an indicator as we look at input information from different sources, is it really true what we're seeing? And this one really bothers me, and how we're coming to this. And have you looked at, I can understand how these kids grow up and they move into different rooms and that becomes very difficult. Is the answer just to say we're not going to provide upper age daycare or put it someplace else because we need the full time? I'm really concerned about this. As people have said to me the last few months, they really question the money we're given each month to buy down the daycare, hourly daycare rate, and now this is coming back and kind of feeding those comments I've been hearing, and so now I'm kind of looking for cover.
Well, yeah, because I think there's a couple of things within that. Yeah.
And you can think about it and come back and tell me. I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
The rate buy down, the $40 a week, that had no benefit to Children's World. That had benefit to the families. And that was a city brought on program. That wasn't us asking for more help to buy down that rate. That was just the city wanting to help families, which is great. I guess when we talked about the program and all that, we probably never took into consideration that if it does make our numbers increase, we've never needed a second infant room. We've never been at capacity in there. What that would look like as far as the cost to get that room up and staffing that room and that kind of thing. So I guess that, yeah, the rate buy down program doesn't help benefit Children's World in any way. It benefited our numbers, but then that did affect us financially to have to cover those costs.
What was the second part of that? Because I feel like there was two different.
But you said that they affected your numbers, but you also said the families that were using it didn't really need the revenue. So that probably didn't affect your numbers as much as just birth rates, which are hard to project.
It is hard to know. Yeah, across the board. And, with established families, you get siblings in there being born. It's hard to know, who comes in for this program alone, who is going to come in no matter what. And when we look at the program as a whole, and we're like, even for ourselves and our own children, $40 a week versus my kid loses care at 2 years old, that's pretty significant when we consider working.
Sam, the number was about $60,000 last year between 43 and 18. So you don't need that, and I'm just trying to understand. So you're not asking for that. Are you asking the city to take that 60,000, keeping its own funds and just plan for spending it sometime in the future? Is that the request? Because that's what it kind of looks like. I'm just trying to make sure.
I'm not sure I received this the same time you did, so
Okay.
I'm still working through it mentally.
Yeah, and we apologize for this, things just.
The way it looks to me is as we can reconsider the pilot program and the expense that we entered into for the pilot program this year and see once if there's other uses for that funds. So.
Yeah, we weren't sure if that can be used in other ways operationally for us as far as expansion, or if that money just, we need to have it on hold until we can adequately house more increase in children. But like you mentioned, it could be not related to the pilot program why our numbers increase. It could just be birth rates. But already looking at next year, we're already going to have enough infants come in that we need that second infant room. And so expansion is something we really have to consider. So it was a kind of two-part thing that we were coming at you at as far as the pilot program. And then the second thing is increasing the operational grant that we receive for expansion. So it's kind of a two-part thing. So.
Sounds like all good news for the city. Save 60,000 and we got more kids.
So I'm just confused on the ask. What is the actual, we don't know a dollar amount at this time, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, and the operational that had spent us was 30,000
Yep.
or so, and that super helpful in the operational all the time. We love that. We'd love to keep that. It's hard to know exact numbers. Obviously, budgets. I mean, everybody wants money. This is a crazy, even consideration. Building onto existing building, adding so much more. So there's going to be some big numbers in there. We don't know all of them yet.
Sure.
But whatever we are able to get would be hugely helpful for us, for the kids. I mean, so much more space for those kids to run around and play and learn and grow.
So with your ongoing discussions regarding what you just stated, what has there been a time frame talked about as far as when you guys want to have your ducks in a row to start looking at what to fulfill this?
Yeah,
I mean, are we looking at 12 months? We're looking at 6 months? We're looking at 18 months?
In 2 years, I know that's awful, goal. There's a lot of fundraising.
Because I'm thinking right now, the time is probably more important than the dollars, because we're talking about a budget that's not really going to be affected by the need as far as timing is concerned. So, okay, thank you.
You understand what we're asking for now?
I do not.
So for this fiscal year, you're asking for the 31.2 for sure, right?
If we can have more, we're asking for more. We didn't know what the dollar amount that we could ask for is.
Okay.
So that's why we didn't come up with a number. If we could have more, we're asking for more, and it would be set aside for the expansion, whether that's the current architect costs just to come in and write the plans, and then it would be used for the expansion. For the pilot program, we're asking release those supplemental funds that we needed to apply for that would pay for when we got above 28 infants, or when it was above the 21 or 23 infants that we could apply for to then cover from 21 infants to 28 infants, the $40 a week. We're just asking, rather than applying for that supplemental grant, to just have that supplemental grant be of $14,680 be released to us just as operational costs. So as those numbers increase, we'll run out of the $40 a week sooner than the year mark. But we are requesting that supplemental grant be relinquished to us so that we can furnish that infant room. We are definitely open to continuing applying for the supplemental grant and continuing the pilot program to the end of its year as well. That was just some of our talk in how are we going to pay to furnish that room. So we are definitely open to you guys' input on that. And then our request was to not continue it into 2026 until we have adequate housing to house more increase in kids.
So help me clarify this. You've grown from under the goal to the goal now as far as infants. Are all of those new entries getting $40 credits now? And is it your plan to continue to give them that credit through July of 2026?
Until the money runs out, as our enrollment increases from, forgive me, I can't remember if the initial number that we had applied for was for the 21 infants or 23, I can't remember. But once we get above the 21 or 23, whichever it is, so say we have 25 infants, if we don't get that supplemental grant, if we don't apply for that supplemental grant, we're going to run out of that $40 a week sooner because we're giving it to 2 more kids, for instance, that weren't in the initial plan. So the plan, we were saying the plan initially would be if you would relinquish the supplemental grant, then that money would run out even sooner because they wouldn't get that $40 a week for any new families. The new families that come would still get the $40 a week until it's just completely out. That makes sense.
It doesn't to me. I'm confused. Because I thought what you're asking is for us to take the monies we haven't paid you yet and give those to you instead to be able to use to remodel the infant room. So then we're spending the money twice, aren't we? Because you can't use that instead for the infant room and also
No, they're
give the grant.
proposing that the $40 credit will run out when the other additional monies exhaust themselves. So what's kind of happening in what I'm hearing is that the intent of the pilot program was to pay up to 28 infants $40 a week for 12 months. And since we didn't get an enrollment increase immediately, there's some extra money that didn't get spent. And so with them now reaching the 28, they'll have that expenditure that the pilot program already has. But the money that didn't get spent during the time that they're at lower numbers, they want for operating costs, whether it be for improving rooms or whatever else. That's the way I understand your request.
Right.
Okay. So in the end, it's still the same dollars. It's just going to use it for something different. So you really want to kind of reallocate it. That's what you want to do.
You have a comment?
I do.
Okay.
So thank you very much for coming. So tomorrow night we'll be talking about TIF and local option sales tax. And tax increment financing, which this is the funding source for, is more restricted than some of our other funding sources, but it's really the only funding source that we have to be able to do this. So in next year's budget, or FY27, Angie and I have $32,448 again for operations, subject to a new agreement, because the last agreement was a 2-year agreement. And then the pilot program, the rate buy down, we have $58,240. Those two numbers total $90,688. So to clarify, you are asking only in the budget to be for fiscal year 27 to be $32,448. Is that correct?
Plus whatever else we're willing.
Plus whatever else, yes. We are asking for that pilot fund money to not be used as the pilot fund. If that money could be used towards our expansion, we would do that, but I don't know. I know there was a lot of guidelines for how the money had to be used, so I'm not sure how that works. So yes, we are only asking for the operational grant, but we're requesting more on it. And it was hard for us to come up with an exact number of how much more, because this is probably going to be a $2 million expansion. So it's hard for us to know an exact number to ask for, because we aren't sure what the max you can apply for is. So.
Why don't I do some research on this and come back at a recap tomorrow?
Yeah, we can definitely have more meetings, like smaller group meetings too, about all of this. It was kind of a lot to throw on there, so we're definitely open to that.
Any other comments or questions while they're here?
I just want to be clear that we are including the operational funds in this budget, correct? Like that is for sure your request is to continue, okay. And then whatever else we could consider on top of that.
Okay. If nothing else, we have reached point 12, recap and potential action.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
We have the option to proceed with day 2 or adjourn for the evening. I know what I want to do, but I'm not going to.
I would make an emotion to adjourn until tomorrow evening.
Thank you. We have support. for that.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
Hamel?
Aye.
Ostrov?
Aye.
Wagner?
Right.